December 2005, Park City. Father-daughter ski vacation after bitter divorce. She's 14, furious, silent. He's desperate. Pharmaceutical whistleblower. Exposed cover-up deaths. December 27th, hired men find them. Trail 9, backcountry. Grab the girl. Message to father. Stay quiet. She hyperventilates. Severe asthma attack. He watches her die. Didn't know she had asthma. Bitter divorce destroyed all communication. Body concealed. February 2017, bridge construction. Her remains. JVC camcorder in backpack. Still had the tape inside. It recorded everything. Faces, names. Justice delayed 12 years. This is the story of how a father's fight for truth cost him everything, and how technology became the only witness to a tragedy that took more than a decade to solve. December 19th, 2005, Monday morning. Ethan Brooks sat in his car outside his ex-wife's house in Salt Lake City, Utah, gripping the steering wheel and trying to calm his nerves. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago, and every custody exchange felt like walking through a minefield. He checked his watch. 8:45 a.m. Chloe would be coming out any minute now, probably with that look on her face, the one that said she'd rather be anywhere else than spending a week with him. The front door opened. His ex-wife, Nicole Barnes, stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching as their 14-year-old daughter trudged down the walkway, pulling a rolling suitcase. Chloe's dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, her expression carefully blank. She didn't look at him as she opened the back door, tossed her suitcase in, and climbed into the passenger seat without a word. Ethan forced a smile. "Hey, kiddo, ready for Park City?" Chloe shrugged, staring at her phone. Nicole approached the driver's side window, and Ethan rolled it down. "She has her inhaler, right?" Nicole asked, her tone clipped. Ethan blinked. "Her what?" Nicole's expression hardened. "Her inhaler. For her asthma. I told you about this." "No, you didn't." "I did. 2 months ago. Check your emails." "Nicole, I check every email. You never told me Chloe has asthma." Nicole sighed, exasperated. "Fine. Whatever, she has it now. It's in her toiletry bag. Make sure she has it with her at all times. Especially skiing. Cold air can trigger an attack." Ethan nodded, feeling a familiar frustration rising. They couldn't even have a civil conversation anymore. Everything was accusation and defensiveness. "Got it. We'll be careful." Nicole leaned down, looking past him to Chloe. "Have fun, honey. Text me every day, okay?" Chloe nodded without looking up from her phone. Nicole straightened, gave Ethan one last look that clearly communicated she thought he was incapable of keeping their daughter safe, and walked back inside. Ethan put the car in gear and pulled away from the curb. The first 15 minutes of the drive were silent, except for the hum of the tires on the highway. Ethan glanced at Chloe. She was hunched against the passenger door, earbuds in, staring out the window. He wanted to ask her about school, about her friends, about anything. But every attempt at conversation over the past 6 months had been met with one-word answers or silence. The divorce had destroyed their relationship. Chloe blamed him. She'd heard Nicole's version of events, the story where Ethan was the workaholic who cared more about his job than his family, who'd chosen his career over being a present husband and father. And there was truth in that. He had worked too much. He had missed dance recitals and parent-teacher conferences. He had brought stress home, turned dinners into tense, distracted affairs. But what Nicole didn't tell Chloe was why. What Ethan had been working on. The case that had consumed his life for 2 years and ultimately cost him his marriage. But now that case was almost over. And this trip, this week in Park City, was supposed to be a new beginning. A chance to show Chloe that he could be the dad she needed. That he wasn't just the absent figure she'd grown to resent. Ethan cleared his throat. I got you something for the trip." Chloe didn't respond. He reached into the back seat and pulled out a box, setting it on the center console. "It's a video camera. A JVC. I thought maybe you could film some of our trip. You know, make a little documentary or something. Could be fun." Chloe glanced at the box, then back out the window. "Thanks," she said flatly. Ethan's heart sank, but he forced optimism into his voice. "I booked us a really nice condo. 2 bedrooms, full kitchen, close to the slopes. And I got us lift tickets for the whole week. We can ski every day if you want. Or snowboard. Whatever you prefer." Silence. "And I thought maybe one night we could go into town, check out the shops, get dinner somewhere nice." "Your choice." Still nothing. Ethan gave up, turning his attention back to the road. The highway stretched ahead, winding through snow-covered mountains. It was going to be a long week. What Ethan didn't know was that someone had been watching him for weeks, learning his schedule, tracking his movements, waiting for the perfect opportunity. And a remote ski resort, far from witnesses and security cameras, was exactly what they'd been hoping for. They arrived at Park City Mountain Resort just after 11 a.m. The resort town was postcard perfect, snow blanketing the streets and rooftops, ski lifts visible on the mountainside, tourists bundling past in colorful winter gear. Ethan checked them into their condo, a spacious 2-bedroom unit with a fireplace and a view of the slopes. Chloe disappeared into her room immediately, closing the door behind her. Ethan unpacked in silence, trying not to let the rejection sting. He'd anticipated resistance. He'd prepared himself for her anger, but it didn't make it easier. After lunch, which Chloe ate quickly before retreating back to her room, Ethan suggested they go get their ski equipment fitted. To his surprise, Chloe agreed. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was a sliver of interest in skiing. Either way, Ethan took it as a win. They spent the afternoon at the resort's rental shop, getting fitted for boots and skis. The technician, a cheerful college kid named Austin Perry, chatted with Chloe about the best trails for intermediates, and Ethan noticed her engage slightly, asking a question or two. Progress. That evening, Ethan made dinner, spaghetti with garlic bread, one of Chloe's favorites when she was younger. She ate without complaint, and afterward, they watched a movie on the couch, not quite together, but in the same room at least. It was more than Ethan had hoped for. Over the next few days, they fell into a routine. Mornings on the slopes, lunch at the lodge, afternoons skiing or exploring the town, evenings back at the condo. Chloe was still distant, still quiet, but Ethan noticed small changes. She smiled once when she nailed a difficult turn. She asked him to show her a technique he'd mentioned. She even filmed a few seconds with the JVC camcorder, panning across the mountain view. It wasn't much, but it was something, and Ethan clung to that hope. By December 26, Ethan felt like maybe, just maybe, they were turning a corner. Chloe had actually laughed that morning when he had wiped out spectacularly on an icy patch. She'd even offered him a hand up. That night, as they sat by the fireplace, Ethan took a chance. "I'm glad we came here," he said quietly. Chloe looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Me too," she said after a moment. It was the first time she'd admitted enjoying the trip. Ethan's chest tightened with emotion. "I know things have been hard. With the divorce. And I know I wasn't always there when you needed me. But I want you to know I'm trying. I'm really trying, Chloe." She didn't respond right away, then softly, "I know." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was acknowledgement. And for Ethan Brooks, that was enough. But what he didn't realize was that the next day would shatter everything he'd worked to rebuild. And the camera he'd bought to capture happy memories would instead record the worst moment of his life. December 27th, 2005. Tuesday morning. The day started clear and cold. Temperature hovering around 28 degrees, perfect skiing weather. Ethan and Chloe had breakfast at the condo, oatmeal and coffee for him, cereal for her, and headed to the slopes by 9:30. Chloe had her JVC camcorder in her backpack. She'd been filming little clips throughout the trip, mostly scenery, a few shots of Ethan attempting tricks and failing. He teased her about making a blooper reel. She almost smiled. They spent the morning on the main runs, intermediate trails that Chloe had grown comfortable with over the past few days. By noon, they were both ready for a break. Ethan suggested they try one of the backcountry trails, something a little more adventurous. Trail 9 was a less traveled route that wound through the trees, offering beautiful views and a quieter experience away from the crowded main slopes. Chloe hesitated. "Is it hard?" "No, it's still intermediate, just more secluded. You'll love it." She nodded. "Okay." They took the lift up to the access point for Trail 9, grabbed a quick lunch at the Summit Lodge, and set off down the trail around 1:15 p.m. The backcountry route was everything Ethan had promised. Quiet, scenic, snow-covered pines lining the path, the only sounds their skis cutting through the powder and the occasional distant call of a bird. Chloe was ahead of him, her form improving with each run, and Ethan felt a swell of pride. This was what he'd wanted: connection, peace, a memory they could both hold on to. But 20 minutes into the run, as they rounded a bend in the trail, two men stepped out from the tree line. They weren't dressed like skiers. They wore heavy jackets and jeans, boots but no skis, and their presence on this remote trail was immediately wrong. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He pulled up short, positioning himself between Chloe and the men. "Chloe, stay behind me." She obeyed, her voice uncertain. "Dad, who are they?" One of the men stepped forward. He was in his 40s, stocky build, weathered face, cold eyes. "Ethan Brooks, we need to talk." Ethan's stomach dropped. He knew exactly who these men were and why they were here. Ethan kept his voice steady. "I don't know who you are, but you need to step aside. We're just skiing." The second man, taller, leaner, moved to flank them. "You know exactly who we are, and you know why we're here." Ethan's mind raced. This was about the case, the pharmaceutical company, the testimony he was scheduled to give in 3 weeks. He'd been careful, he'd kept his head down, he'd thought he was safe, but they'd found him anyway. "This is a public trail. You're making a mistake." The stocky man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "No mistake. We're here to deliver a message from people who don't appreciate whistleblowers." Chloe's voice was small behind him. "Dad, what's happening?" Ethan didn't turn around. "It's okay, honey. Stay calm." The stocky man's gaze shifted to Chloe. "Pretty girl. 14, right? Looks just like her mom." Ethan's blood ran cold. "You leave her out of this. That's up to you. See, we're not here to hurt anyone. We're just here to remind you that actions have consequences. You've got a deposition scheduled for January 16th. We're suggesting you reconsider." Ethan's hands clenched into fists. "I'm not changing my testimony." The stocky man sighed. "That's disappointing, because now we have to make sure you understand what's at stake." Before Ethan could react, the taller man moved fast, grabbing Chloe by the arm and yanking her away from Ethan. She screamed. Ethan lunged forward, but the stocky man caught him, shoving him back hard. "Don't make this worse than it has to be." Chloe struggled, panic in her eyes. "Dad!" "Let her go," Ethan shouted, trying to push past the stocky man. But the man was strong, and he slammed Ethan into a tree, holding him there. The taller man dragged Chloe further down the trail, her skis still on, making her stumble. "All you have to do is say the word, Brooks. Tell us you'll reconsider." And she goes free. No harm done. Chloe was crying now, gasping, "Dad, please." And that's when Ethan heard it. The change in her breathing, the wheeze, the panic was triggering something. But what? Then he remembered. Nicole's words that morning they left. Inhaler, asthma. Cold air can trigger an attack. Oh God. "She has asthma," Ethan shouted. "She needs her inhaler. Let her go." The stocky man frowned. "What?" "She's having an asthma attack. Let me get to her." Chloe's breathing was becoming labored, harsh, desperate. The taller man holding her looked uncertain. "Hey, she's not breathing right." The stocky man cursed. "Where's her inhaler?" "In her backpack," Ethan yelled. "Let me help her." But Chloe was panicking now, hyperventilating, which only made the asthma worse. She clawed at her throat, her face turning pale. The taller man dropped her arm, stepping back. "She's turning blue." Ethan broke free from the stocky man and rushed to Chloe, dropping to his knees beside her. She collapsed into the snow, gasping, her lips tinged with blue. "Chloe, where's your inhaler? Where is it?" She couldn't answer, couldn't breathe. Ethan ripped her backpack off, tearing through it. Ski goggles, the JVC camcorder, a water bottle, granola bars, but no inhaler. "Where is it?" he screamed, dumping the contents into the snow. Nothing. He checked her jacket pockets, empty. The inhaler was back at the condo. Nicole had said it was in her toiletry bag. Chloe had never taken it out. She didn't think she'd need it. And Ethan, who didn't even know she had asthma until 3 days ago, had never checked. Chloe's breathing was barely there now, shallow, strangled. Her eyes were wide with fear. Ethan looked up at the two men. Call 911. Now, the stocky man was frozen, staring. The taller one pulled out a cell phone, but his hands were shaking. There's no signal up here. Then ski down and get help. The taller man didn't move. Ethan turned back to Chloe, trying to remember first aid. Keep her calm. Open her airway. But nothing was working. Her breathing was getting weaker. Chloe, stay with me. Stay with me, honey. Her eyes met his, terrified. And then they closed. Her body went limp. No, 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 no. Ethan tilted her head back, checked her airway, started CPR. Compressions, breaths, compressions, breaths, but she wasn't responding. The two men stood there, silent, watching. Ethan worked for 10 minutes, 15, until his arms ached and his chest heaved. And he knew it was too late. Chloe was gone. He collapsed over her body, sobbing. The men exchanged a look. We didn't mean for this to happen, the taller one said quietly. The stocky man's expression was hard. Doesn't matter what we meant. She's dead, and we're the reason. Ethan looked up, his face twisted with grief and rage. You killed her. We didn't touch her. You grabbed her. You scared her. She died because of you. The stocky man stepped closer. Listen to me. This is a tragedy, but it doesn't have to be your tragedy too. You walk away. You forget this happened. You forget you ever saw us, and we disappear. No one ever finds her. You tell the police she wandered off, got lost. Ski accident. Happens all the time. Ethan stared at him, unable to process the words. What? You want to explain to the police how your daughter died while you were being threatened? You want to testify in that trial and have everyone know you got your kid killed? Or do you want to move on, grieve, and let this go? Ethan's mind was spinning. He couldn't think, couldn't breathe. All he could see was Chloe's lifeless face. The taller man crouched down. We're going to take her body. Hide it somewhere it won't be found. You're going to ski down, tell resort security she disappeared, and let them search. They won't find her. Eventually, they'll call it an accident. You'll mourn, and then you'll move on. No, Ethan whispered. You don't have a choice. The stocky man's voice was cold. You fight us, and we make sure you disappear too. Your ex-wife loses both of you. Is that what you want? Ethan couldn't answer. The taller man reached down and pulled Chloe's backpack toward him, zipping it up. He paused, noticing the JVC camcorder lying in the snow where Ethan had dumped it from the bag. The man picked it up, checked it. The red recording light was on. It had been recording the whole time. The man's face went white. Hey, this thing was recording. The stocky man grabbed the camera, stared at the display screen showing the timestamp and the blinking rec indicator. He rewound the tape slightly, played it back. His own voice came through the tiny speaker. We're here to deliver a message. The stocky man's jaw clenched. He fast-forwarded. More audio. Their faces. Chloe's gasping. Everything. He looked at the taller man. It's all on here. Then we take it. No. The stocky man popped the tape out of the camcorder, pocketed it, and threw the camera into the snow. We leave it. If we take it, it looks suspicious. They find it with her stuff. They'll just think she dropped it. Without the tape, it's useless. The taller man nodded. They turned back to Ethan. Get up. You're going to help us move her. Ethan shook his head. I'm not helping you. The stocky man pulled a gun from his jacket. Yes, you are. For the next 20 minutes, in a haze of grief and shock, Ethan helped the two men carry Chloe's body off the trail, through the trees to a small ravine about a quarter mile from Trail 9. There was a maintenance shed there, old, unused, covered in snow. They forced the door open and placed Chloe's body inside, covering her with a tarp they found. The stocky man looked at Ethan. You tell anyone about this, we come back. And next time it won't be an accident. Understand? Ethan said nothing. The man grabbed Ethan's jacket, shook him. I said, do you understand? Yes, Ethan whispered. Good. Now here's what happens next. We're going to make sure you don't do anything stupid." The taller man came up behind Ethan. Before he could react, something hit him hard across the back of the head. Pain exploded, his vision blurred, and then everything went black. Ethan woke up to the sound of voices. His head throbbed. His body was freezing. He opened his eyes and saw two faces staring down at him. Ski patrol uniforms. "Sir, can you hear me?" Ethan blinked, confused. He was lying in the snow. His boots were missing. His jacket was unzipped. How long had he been unconscious? "Sir, we're with Ski Patrol. We found you near the base of Trail 9. Do you know your name?" "Ethan," he croaked. "Ethan Brooks." "Ethan, you're hypothermic. We need to get you to the clinic. Can you stand?" They helped him up. His legs were numb. His thoughts were scattered. And then he remembered. "Chloe, my daughter," he gasped. "Where's my daughter?" The two patrolmen exchanged a glance. "Sir, you were alone when we found you. Was someone with you?" "My daughter, Chloe. She's 14. We were skiing. She ... He trailed off. The memories came flooding back. The men, the attack, the asthma, her death, the shed. But if he told them, the men would come back. They'd kill him too. Ethan's mind raced. What was he supposed to say? She went ahead of me on the trail. I lost sight of her. I think I fell, hit my head. I don't know how long I was out. You have to find her." The patrolman radioed immediately. Within minutes, a full search operation was mobilizing. Ethan was taken to the resort medical clinic, treated for hypothermia and a concussion. He answered questions from ski patrol, from resort security, from local police. Chloe Brooks, 14 years old, dark hair, blue jacket, last seen on Trail 9 around 2 p.m. They searched all afternoon, all evening, into the night. Helicopters with thermal imaging, search dogs, volunteers. They combed Trail 9, the surrounding backcountry, every inch of accessible terrain. They found nothing. By midnight, Ethan was being questioned by Detective Samantha Ward from the Park City Police Department. She sat across from him in a small office at the resort, her expression sympathetic but probing. "Mr. Brooks, I need you to walk me through everything that happened today." Ethan told her the story he'd constructed. They'd been skiing Trail 9. Chloe went ahead. He lost sight of her. He fell, hit his head, blacked out. When he woke up, ski patrol was there. Samantha made notes. "And you didn't see anyone else on the trail? No other skiers? No one who might have seen your daughter?" Ethan hesitated. This was his chance. He could tell her the truth. About the men, about what happened to Chloe. But then what? The men had threatened to come after him. And even if the police believed him, even if they found Chloe's body, everyone would know. Know that his work as a whistleblower had gotten his daughter killed. Nicole would know. The world would know. He couldn't face that. So instead he lied. No one else. Samantha studied him. "Mr. Brooks, I have to ask, is there any reason your daughter might have run away? Any problems at home? Arguments?" "No, nothing like that. We were having a good trip." "And your ex-wife? She's been notified?" Ethan nodded. Nicole was flying in tomorrow. She'd screamed at him over the phone, blamed him, just as he'd expected. The search continued for 3 days. By December 30th, Park City Police expanded their search radius to 10 miles. They brought in cadaver dogs. They checked every building, every vehicle, every possible location where a teenage girl could be hiding or trapped. Nothing. On January 2nd, 2006, the search was scaled back to a recovery operation. The assumption was that Chloe had either fallen into a deep crevasse, been buried by snow, or succumbed to the elements in an area they hadn't yet searched. Detective Samantha Ward told Ethan they'd continue looking, but the odds of finding Chloe alive were now nearly zero. Nicole blamed Ethan completely. She filed for an emergency custody modification, though it didn't matter anymore since there was no Chloe to have custody of. She told anyone who would listen that Ethan had been negligent, reckless, that he'd taken Chloe on a dangerous trail and lost her. And Ethan couldn't argue, because in a way, she was right. By January 16th, the date of Ethan's scheduled deposition, he withdrew from the pharmaceutical case entirely. He told his attorney he couldn't testify. Personal reasons. Family tragedy. The case went forward without him, but his absence weakened the prosecution. The pharmaceutical company settled out of court for a fraction of what they should have paid. The deaths Ethan had exposed were swept under the rug, and the two men who'd killed Chloe disappeared, their mission accomplished. But the story doesn't end there, because 12 years later, the truth would finally surface in the most unexpected way. February 2017, Park City, Utah. A construction crew working on a new bridge near the base of Park City Mountain Resort was excavating the site, digging deep into the hillside to lay a foundation. The area had been closed to the public for years, an old section of the resort that had been abandoned in the late 90s. On February 8th, a worker named Hunter Graham was operating an excavator when his bucket hit something solid. He climbed down to investigate, expecting a rock or old pipe. What he found was a door, a maintenance shed half buried, covered in over a decade of dirt and debris. Hunter pried the door open. Inside, the air was stale, cold, and there, covered by a rotting tarp, was a skeleton. Small, child-sized, wearing the remnants of a blue winter jacket. Hunter backed out of the shed and radioed his supervisor. Within an hour, Park City Police had cordoned off the site. Detective Samantha Ward, now a senior investigator, was called to the scene. She'd worked hundreds of cases since 2005, but when she saw the blue jacket, something clicked in her memory. She pulled the old case file that night. Chloe Brooks, missing since December 27, 2005. Last seen wearing a blue jacket. The dental records confirmed it within 48 hours. The remains were Chloe Brooks. But that wasn't all they found. Inside the shed, scattered among the debris, was a JVC mini DV camcorder. The plastic casing was cracked, the lens cover missing, but the body of the camera was intact. And inside the camera compartment was a mini DV tape. Samantha personally took the camera and tape to the forensic lab. "Can you recover anything from this?" The tech, a young woman named Madison Grant, examined the tape. "It's been exposed to moisture and cold for over a decade. But mini DV tapes are pretty resilient. I can try." It took her 3 days. She carefully cleaned the tape, dried it in a controlled environment, and loaded it into a professional playback deck. On February 13, 2017, Samantha sat in a small viewing room and pressed play. The footage was grainy, the audio distorted in places, but it was there. The entire incident. Chloe Brooks walking with her father. The two men stepping out. The confrontation. The voices. "We're here to deliver a message. From people who don't appreciate whistleblowers." The grab. Chloe's screams, the asthma attack, her death, and most importantly, the men's faces. Clear, identifiable. Samantha watched the entire tape twice, her jaw clenched. Then she made a phone call. "I need a facial recognition analysis. Priority 1. The results came back within 24 hours. The stocky man was identified as Garrett Lawson, age 57, last known address in Henderson, Nevada. He had a criminal record, assault, extortion, suspected ties to organized crime. The taller man was Hayden Price, age 54, similar background. Both had dropped off the grid after 2006, but with their faces and names, it didn't take long to track them down. Garrett was living in a rural property outside of Reno. Hayden was in Arizona, working under an assumed name. On February 20th, 2017, both men were arrested simultaneously in coordinated raids. They were extradited to Utah and charged with kidnapping, resulting in death, felony murder, and conspiracy. The pharmaceutical company connection was harder to prove. The company, Medcore Pharmaceuticals, had dissolved in 2008 after multiple lawsuits. But forensic accountants traced payments from a shell company linked to Medcore to an account belonging to Garrett Lawson in December 2005. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was enough to establish motive. Detective Samantha Ward went to see Ethan Brooks in person. He was living in a small apartment in Salt Lake City, a shadow of the man he'd been 12 years ago. The guilt and grief had destroyed him. His career was gone. His relationship with Nicole had never recovered. He lived alone, working a low-level accounting job, going through the motions of life. When Samantha knocked on his door and told him they'd found Chloe, Ethan collapsed. When she told him about the video, about the arrests, he wept. Why didn't you tell us the truth in 2005? Samantha asked gently. Ethan stared at his hands. They threatened to kill me, and I couldn't face it. Couldn't face Nicole, couldn't face the world knowing I'd gotten Chloe killed. You didn't get her killed. They did. I brought that case into our lives. I made myself a target. She died because of me. Samantha shook her head. She died because two men made a choice to use her as a weapon. That's on them, not you. Ethan didn't respond, but for the first time in 12 years, he felt something other than crushing guilt. He felt the faintest stirring of hope that maybe, just maybe, justice was possible. The trial began in September 2017. Garrett Lawson and Hayden Price were tried together. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Jared Bennett, presented the case meticulously. The video footage was played in court. Chloe's voice, her panic, her death. The jury watched in silence. Garrett and Hayden's attorneys argued that their clients had never intended to kill Chloe, that her death was a tragic accident resulting from an undiagnosed medical condition. But the prosecution countered with felony murder doctrine. During the commission of a felony, kidnapping, a death occurred. Intent didn't matter. They were responsible. Ethan testified. He told the truth this time. All of it. The pharmaceutical case, the threats, the confrontation on Trail 9, his failure to protect Chloe, his cowardice in hiding what had happened. Nicole sat in the gallery stony-faced. She hadn't spoken to Ethan since the arrests. When the defense attorney cross-examined Ethan, trying to paint him as an unreliable witness who'd lied for over a decade, Samantha Ward took the stand to corroborate the video evidence. The tape doesn't lie, she said. Everything Mr. Brooks testified to is on that recording. The defendants' faces, their words, their actions. This isn't a question of memory or credibility. It's a question of what the evidence shows, and the evidence is clear. The jury deliberated for 2 days. On September 28, 2017, they returned a verdict. Guilty. Guilty on all counts. Garrett Lawson and Hayden Price were each sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. After the verdict, Ethan stood outside the courthouse facing a crowd of reporters. They shouted questions at him, asked how he felt, asked why he'd waited so long. He ignored them all, except for one question. Mr. Brooks, do you have anything to say to your daughter? Ethan looked directly at the camera. His voice was steady, though his eyes were wet. Chloe, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I failed you. I should have protected you. I should have told the truth from the beginning. But I was scared, and I was selfish, and I let you down. I hope wherever you are, you can forgive me. I love you. I've always loved you. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure people remember you. Not as a victim, but as the brave, beautiful girl you were. The case became a landmark in forensic technology and cold case investigations. The fact that a consumer-grade camcorder had preserved evidence for over a decade, surviving exposure to the elements, and ultimately solving a homicide was remarkable. Law enforcement agencies across the country began re-examining old cases, looking for overlooked pieces of technology that might still hold evidence. Ethan Brooks used the insurance payout from Chloe's death to establish a foundation in her name. The Chloe Brooks Foundation provided legal support and resources to whistleblowers, protecting people who came forward to expose corporate wrongdoing. He also advocated for asthma awareness, working with schools and parents to ensure better communication about children's medical conditions, especially in custody situations. Nicole eventually agreed to speak with him, though their relationship would never be repaired. She told him she didn't forgive him for lying, but she understood why he did it. And she was glad that Garrett and Hayden were in prison. It was the closest thing to closure either of them would get. Detective Samantha Ward kept the JVC camcorder in a secured evidence locker. After the trial, she had it transferred to a crime museum, where it was displayed as part of an exhibit on technology and forensic investigations. A small plaque beside it read, "This camera recorded the truth when no one else could. Justice delayed is not justice denied." Years later, when asked about the case, Samantha would say it was a reminder that evidence can survive in unexpected ways, and that the truth, no matter how long it takes, will eventually surface. For Ethan Brooks, there was no happy ending. Chloe was gone. That would never change. But knowing that the men who killed her were behind bars, that their crime hadn't gone unpunished, gave him a measure of peace. He visited Chloe's grave every week, a small headstone in a Salt Lake City cemetery. He'd bring flowers, sit on the bench nearby, and talk to her, tell her about the foundation, about the people they'd helped, about how much he missed her. On the 12th anniversary of her death, December 27, 2017, Ethan returned to Park City. He stood at the base of Trail 9, now a memorial site with a plaque honoring Chloe. The plaque read, "Chloe Brooks, beloved daughter, her voice captured in my chants brought justice when silence nearly prevailed. May we never forget that the truth matters. Always." Ethan stood there for a long time, the cold wind biting at his face, the snow falling softly around him. He thought about that last morning with Chloe, the way she'd almost smiled when he'd wiped out on the ice, the way she'd said quietly that she was glad they'd come on the trip. He'd failed her in life, but in death he'd made sure her voice was heard. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. And as he turned and walked away from Trail 9, Ethan made a promise. He would spend the rest of his life making sure Chloe's death meant something, that other families wouldn't suffer because someone was too afraid to speak the truth, that whistleblowers would be protected, that justice, no matter how delayed, would always be pursued. Because Chloe's camera had captured everything, the attack, the threats, the truth. And in the end, technology had given her a voice when she could no longer speak for herself. This case reminds us that evidence can survive in ways we never expect. A video camera, forgotten in the snow for 12 years, became the key to solving a tragedy that had been buried by fear and lies. It reminds us that the truth has a way of surfacing, even when it seems lost forever. And it reminds us that when we speak up against wrongdoing, when we refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice, there are people who will go to dangerous lengths to silence us. But they can't silence the evidence. They can't erase what's been recorded. Ethan Brooks bought his daughter a camera hoping to capture happy memories. Instead, it captured a crime. And 12 years later, that camera gave Chloe the justice she deserved. Her voice, preserved on magnetic tape, spoke louder than any testimony. And the men who thought they'd gotten away with silencing a whistleblower learned that some truths refuse to stay buried. If this story moved you, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. We cover cases like this one, stories where justice is delayed but never denied, where technology plays a crucial role in solving mysteries, and where families finally get the answers they've been searching for. Hit that like button if you want to see more deep dive investigations into cold cases and unsolved mysteries. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. In the comments below, let me know what shocked you most about this case. Was it the fact that the camcorder survived 12 years in the elements? The pharmaceutical company connection? Ethan's decision to stay silent for over a decade? Or the way technology ultimately brought justice? Share your thoughts. I read every comment, and your engagement helps determine which cases we cover next. If this documentary resonated with you, please share it. Cases like Chloe Brooks's deserve to be remembered. Families like Ethan's deserve to know they're not alone. And whistleblowers who risk everything to expose the truth deserve our protection and support. Remember, if you or someone you know is facing threats for speaking out against corporate wrongdoing, there are resources available. Organizations exist to protect whistleblowers, to provide legal support, and to ensure that doing the right thing doesn't cost you everything. Stay safe, trust your instincts, and never underestimate the power of speaking the truth, even when it's terrifying. Because as Chloe Brooks' case proved, the truth always finds a way. Thank you for watching. And remember, justice may be delayed, but it will never be denied. Not when the evidence speaks louder than any threat. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop seeking the truth.